Hello, and welcome to part 3 of how on earth to play this really complicated system. It is like 5 times more complicated than D&D, but also 5 times as fun because Pokemon. So the Pokemon make it worth it. So let's see here. Today we're going to be covering a lot of stuff about Pokemon, how to Pokemon, what are Pokemon. Looking at the information that I've gathered, it seems that enough of you have not really played Pokemon games before either. So this is going to be interesting. So there's a little bit extra to cover today. Here, let's look at Owen's because he told me his starter Pokemon and he entered them anyways. So this would be a good little time to look at that. Alrighty. Welcome to the world of Pokemon. That's a reference to literally every Pokemon game. It always starts off with that line, "Welcome to the world of Pokemon." I'm sure like one or two of you got that reference. Cool, thanks. Let's see here. So, in terms of so they act as their own characters. The way that you treat and play your Pokemon is completely as if they are their own character, except they have a way dumbed down character sheets, right? I'd mentioned in the stuff I've yet to cover Polka Edges. And yeah, Polka Edges are a thing on here, and they're basically same thing as trainer edges, but for Pokemon. I decided, hey, let's not bother with Polka Edges because they don't do enough to justify their existence. They are literally just there because it's like, hey, but what if you could do the same? What if you could buff your Pokemon with like certain skills and edges? And it's like, sure, but yeah, we're just going to not bother with them, honestly. Well, yeah, we're not going to bother with those. So you can ignore Polka Edges. Something else to note is that you will see on both your Pokemon sheets and also your combat sheets something about augmentations and upgrades. That is a part of an expansion to this system that we're not using. So that's another little bit that you get to ignore. Cool. So I should have probably been a little bit more organized about this, but though, yeah, today we're going to cover Pokemon. So trainers are allowed to carry with them a maximum of 6 Pokemons. That's what the rulebook says, but though, frankly, because of the special situation we're in, there's literally zero way for you to go to some way to deposit your Pokemon and trade them out. Therefore, we're not right. Plus, also, I don't really foresee you guys catching that many Pokemon, anyways. So you're not limited to just 6 Pokemon. So the normal rules of party size that are in the games we're going to ignore. Yeah, and then so Pokemon have base stats. If you look in the Pokedex PDF, you will see stuff like this. They all have base stats to them. So if and this sheet is beautiful. Whoever made this spreadsheet, first of all, real nerd, because they created, because that suggests that number one, they're a spreadsheet nerd, number two, a Pokemon nerd, and number three, a D&D nerd. So they're like layering their nerdiness by just making the spreadsheet. And secondly, this thing is just beautiful. So let's see, which ones, pull out my phone. Which ones did Owen say that he wanted? We can do those right here, right now. So the first one that we're going to look at here is Psyduck. So the moment that I enter this and give it a second, there we go. It will go ahead and start filling out some of this information, like its type, and also its base stats, as you can see. So yeah, so these are the base stats that are given just per the usual. And so as you can see, this here, points left, based off of your level, you have a certain amount of stat points that you can distribute to any one of these stats. So like so I can go in here and distribute some to special attack, and as you can see now, my special attack has now gone up. We will cover stage in a different video. So so yeah, it's and then now also this one down, because that was 11 and now it's 10. But though yeah. So I actually use a random Pokemon generator that generates the Pokemon for me that I may or may not have built. And so this here will randomly generate the stats, which, because like you don't get to pick, I don't get to pick. It's fair that way. So I'm going to come in here, do Psyduck. I'm starting everyone out at level 10 for their Pokemon. Cool. XP 90. So this is where you would put your XP. It even tells you how much XP you need in order to get to the next level. And actually, if you look in useful charts, the very first chart is like, okay, how much experience equals what level, right? So right now we're at, so 90 experience is how much you need to be at level 10. And so if I gain 20 more experience, you get 110 experience, then I'll be level 11. That is not the same for trainers. Trainers XP is way different. This is only for Pokemon. Only for Pokemon. Trainer XP is literally just it is literally just every time you reach 10 XP, you gain another level. That's it. And usually I distribute XP very differently as well. So for a battle, a trainer will get only 1 experience, while a Pokemon might get 20 experience. So it's experience between Pokemon and trainers are very different. And I'll cover the trainer experience a little bit more in detail in a future video. But though today we're focused on Pokemon. So over here you can see the list of moves that you are able to learn at certain levels. So once, if you had a Charmander, once Charmander reaches level 16, they're able to learn Dragon Rage. One thing you have to note is that you are only able to have 6 moves. Only 6 moves. Your struggle attack does not count as one of your moves. You will always have a struggle. This struggle attack is literally just here as a kind of miscellaneous move. Struggle attacks are basically just kind of when you kind of flail yourself at an opponent without any kind of organization to it, essentially. They're very weak as well. So, let's see. So, this side duck that we generated has learned the moves Tail Whip. Let's see. Tail Whip. Water Sport, Scratch. And as you can see, it's like automatically filling it out for me because, again, this sheet is really awesome. And Water Gun. Let me fix that. That doesn't look right. And as you can see, there are 2 more moves that this little guy can learn. It's just that because he's only level 10, there's only so many that he's able to. So yeah. Now, as to what all of these things mean, we will cover that in the combat video. But I will go over types briefly. So, if you're not familiar with Pokemon, each Pokemon has a different type. There's a chart here that shows when you make an attack with a certain type, right? So if I make an attack, which is this left-hand side, if I make a fire attack, then certain Pokemon will take more damage from that. So if I use a fire attack, it is more effective against a grass Pokemon and an ice Pokemon and a bug Pokemon, but not so much effective against a fire Pokemon or a water Pokemon. And all these ones that are just white, it's just normally effective. In fact, actually, again, this sheet is amazing. It shows you down here for your Pokemon with how resistant it is to certain attacks. So this is a defensive. This would be the defense column thing, right? So this Pokemon is a water type. And so looking at the water type column here, where it's half damage for fire, half for water, etc., you'll see that in here, yeah, it says half for fire, half for water, etc., etc. So this here tells you what that is, like how effective it is there. I'll go a little bit more in detail into like when that calculation comes into play when we come into calculating damage in the combat section. So, but I guess jumping back to the stats here, right? So I'm going to finish distributing his. Oh my goodness, this guy is stacked on health. This guy's really stacked on health. Wait, that doesn't make sense. Oh no, that's his. Darn it. Yeah, HP and health are 2 different things. Your HP stat and your current HP are 2 different things, right? The HP stat is used to calculate what is the maximum HP that you can have, right? So if we look here at this formula is your health plus your level times 3 plus 10. So yeah. Basically, it takes your level and your HP stat to calculate what your max HP is. In this case, his Pokemon is at it's at 8 for its HP stat, so I'm going to add 3 to go to a total of 8. 3, 6, and then 6, 11. This is hard. 14, 5, and 9. And 9. Cool. So one thing I wanted to note is something called the base stat relations rule. Please, please, please remember this, because, oh boy, whenever I get new players, they always forget about this rule and end up distributing their stats wrong. And so I have to keep being like, no, you can't do that. So let's say that this guy levels up. So he finally reaches 110 XP. Woohoo! He now has a stat point to distribute for leveling up. Cool. Where do you put it? You're not quite allowed to put it literally just anywhere willy-nilly. So the base stat relations rule, what that means, if one stat is greater than the other in its base stat, if one of its base stats is greater than another base stat, it has to remain always greater, always. So special attack here has to always be greater than all of these other guys, because none of them match up. Now, for those that are equal, they're fine. You can have HP greater than or less than attack, because these guys that are all 5 here, they don't have to be greater than or less than each other. It's only when those that are different to each other. So speed always has to be greater than these guys that are marked as 5. And special attack needs to be greater than all of those. I hope that makes sense. But yeah, as you can see, so that is the same for over here, right? So we ended up with special attack is still greater than all the other stats, and speed is still the second greatest out of all these. So actually, if I were to distribute this 1 point here and add it to HP, I would now be breaking the base stat relations rule, because now HP and speed are equal to each other, when according to its base stat, speed is supposed to remain greater. Yeah. And so that's base stat relations rule. So then, let's say that you get to the point, and that's basically, that's really all you have to do when you level up your Pokemon. When you level up your Pokemon, you have a stat point to distribute, and then you need to go and check the Pokedex to see what move, if it needs to learn any moves. But the other thing you need to check when it levels up is if it qualifies to evolve. So you'll see here under the evolution section that different Pokemon evolve at different stages, into different stages, and they evolve at different levels. So in this case, Charmander has 3 total evolution stages, right? So the current stage it's at being one of them. It goes to the second stage when it reaches a minimum of level 15. So once this guy, once a Charmander, this is not a Charmander, I looked over here and it's like, that's a duck. That doesn't look like this. But anyways, so when it finally evolves, what you will do is you'll come over here and change its species to be the new species it is. And that will change its base stats. Here's the fun part. You know that base stat relations rule I just talked about? Yeah, those relationships, those greater than, less than relationships are generally never the same for its evolution. So you'll need to tweak your stats after evolving in order to have it still be legal. Yeah, that's a thing. Now, as to what that means and like, oh, do I totally just start from scratch, redistribute it? No, not per se. When we get, we'll cross that road when we get there as to like redistributing stats at evolution. When someone's Pokemon evolves, we'll evolve it outside of the session, and I'll do that with you guys. So don't be worried. All right, so what else did I have? Training feature. Gosh darn it. I hate the training feature. One of the features that you are able to learn for yourself is this thing called a training feature. The training features, yeah, so it's just these 6 here. Just these 4. They're just these 4. These 4 that have the training tag on them that says that they're a training type feature. You will, when you build your character, one of the first things that you do is you pick for yourself a training feature. This feature does not count against your the 4 that you start off with. This is an extra 5th feature, but it has to be one of the training features. It has to be one of these 4 training features. So again, when you start off, you pick 4 features, but then you also pick a 5th feature, and it has to be one of these 4 training features, right? So a training feature. The following 4 features are a special type of order which can be used to train your Pokemon outside of battle. They have special rules noted in the feature tags that will be repeated here. After you spend these, so every day, every in-game day, right? So whenever a new day comes about, you are allowed to train your Pokemon, right? So this is a way that you can get your Pokemon XP by training your Pokemon every day. And again, you only get to do that once per in-game day. So because otherwise that will be really overpowered to just be able to constantly spend time and just buff your Pokemon to the max. Your command rank determines how many Pokemon you are allowed to train per day. So if you have a command rank of 2, you can train 2 Pokemon. If you have a command rank of 3, you can train 3 Pokemon per day. Now your Pokemon do gain experience from battles as well. So training your Pokemon is not the only way to get experience. No. Your daily training is a great way to still gain some experience. So then, the command scale here, kind of important. I would not make that thing pathetic. So yeah, that training time that I'm mentioning, that your daily training time lasts 1 in-game hour. It lasts 1 in-game hour. So yes, passage of time is absolutely a concept in this game. After you spend an hour training your Pokemon, and last until the next. Yeah, okay. So the effects that are given as a part of your training feature, whenever you do your daily training with your Pokemon, that Pokemon gets that buff until you go to bed. That's basically what this extended rest means, until you go to bed. An extended rest is a rest that is at least 8 hours in game. Yeah, so another thing to note about when you pick your training feature is that when you pick your training feature to start off, you get the privilege to ignore the prerequisites. So so it says like this one, your prerequisite is that you have at least this rank athletics and at least this rank command. But when you pick your training feature that you're going to put on your sheet down here, that is the only time that you get to ignore these prerequisites. So you get to pick any of the 4 for your starting training feature. You are allowed to pick up as one of your normal features a second training feature and so forth from there. No one ever does that though, and frankly, that's because there's no good reason to. I would not recommend getting a second training feature because you can only apply 1 training buff per day, and you can't switch it. So these buffs don't stack if you were to get more than one of these features. They don't. Yes, oh yeah, so it says that here. A Pokemon can only be the effect of 1 training regimen at a time. So yeah, the only reason that you would want to take another training feature is because you ended up not liking the one that you got. Alright, so that's training features in a nutshell. Whenever evolving, whenever that. Nice. Okay. I think that is it for Pokemon today. Yeah. Otherwise, they basically act like characters. In fact, actually, you do control this Pokemon as a character, so you can give them a personality, give them a backstory, like come up with a good. I highly recommend, and will ask you actually, how did you meet your Pokemon? Right, come up with a backstory as to how did you and your starter meet, and what kind of challenges have you overcome together? Because like they will have a personality, right? Oh, natures. I forgot to go over natures. We'll go over natures real quickly. This guy's nature ended up being generated as lax. Okay, so the nature, again, that's something that gets randomly generated here. Although if you want your Pokemon to have a different nature, you can feel free to ask. So in the useful charts, there's a chart about the natures. There are 36 different natures. Depending on what nature your Pokemon has, you will get a buff to a certain to a certain oh wait a second, I'm on the wrong sheet. You'll get a buff to a certain stat and a debuff to a certain stat. So because Psyduck here is lax, he's very defensive, but not so special defensive, essentially. And as you can see, that ended up actually changing your base stats. That gets applied to your base stat. So now, this guy is definitely not going to be very special defensive. His special defense base stat got lowered quite a bit. If you guys, so the other, so like, oh, does this have like personality implications? It's supposed to. It is supposed to have personality implications. If you really don't like the nature that got generated for your Pokemon, I'll let you like change it, but do not change it to something purely to get like buff to attack. No, that's not allowed. I will, if you want to change it, randomly generate different nature for you, and you tell me if that one worked, if that one matches the personality type. That should be the only reason that we're changing it. Your starter's nature is because you want it to be a different personality type. Because again, this is your character. These Pokemon are your characters. So, and the other thing that nature determines is what types of food it likes and dislikes. Why? I don't know. How? I definitely don't know. But that's a feature. All right. Covers everything that I have for Pokemon. Yeah. Capabilities, darn it. Did I go somewhere else? Nope. Okay. Your Pokemon. So this is determined. Oh, I don't have it. This is determined by the Pokedex again. Something that is true of specific. So specific Pokemon have specific capabilities. This Pokemon has a capability called Underdog, and if this page stops being frozen, you can use this little drop down here to view a list of all the capabilities and what they mean. So this guy has the Underdog capability. So if I go into here and find the Underdog one, it'll pull up. Why is it suddenly being laggy? It was not like this a moment ago. So it'll pull up to the right here a description of what that capability means. Okay. Well, that's being weird. But yeah, but though, do pay attention to that because it's a thing that it's basically a little oh, yeah, Underdog's weird. Because if you take the Underdog class, then you get to buff any Underdogs that you have. But though, let's look at a more normal capability here. A good capability would be something like a fire starter. So fire starter means that if they wish their struggle attack, remember that struggle attack I mentioned at the beginning of this video? Their struggle attack may be fire typed if they wish. So it can be normal or fire. They may also add their special attack instead of their attack. So basically, we'll get into that some other time. Never mind. That's weird. The other thing about Firestarter that it doesn't say here for some reason is that they're able to literally like start a fire, right? So like say you need to have, you're trying to set up a campfire rather than using flint and stone, you can use your Pokemon that has the Firestarter capability to start your fire. Alright, the other thing to note here is that you'll see that some moves, by knowing some moves, it will actually grant you capabilities. So Ember, for example, Ember grants you that fire starter capability. If you learn the move Ember, suddenly now your Pokemon can be used to start your campfire. Cool stuff, right? It looks like Psyduck has the capability called Fountain, which he has learned from these two moves. Oh, also what gender was he? I didn't write that down. Oh, male. There you go. So I'm going to go ahead and add that to the list of those. Anywhere that you see dashes, that means don't touch it. You will break the spreadsheet if you try to edit any field that has like a dash through it. So avoid editing fields with dashes. Yeah. So that's why I put it down here where there are no dashes. But if we look at the fountain one, right? So what does fountain give them? Same thing with the struggle, but though now with water type. Oh, this is so annoying. Because this is supposed to also... Is that in the dock, maybe? That is weird. Okay. I thought these descriptions also described what they did outside of combat. Huh. Well, outside of combat, I might say, okay, yeah, you can use fountain to produce a little stream of water as if your Pokemon were a faucet. So yeah, all right. This time for real, we are done for today on this one. All right. Thanks for watching.